Dear children, good morning. How have you been, children? Unfortunately, owing to the critical health condition of my mother, who's admitted in the hospital, I haven't been able to conduct your online classes. However, as you can understand that it's already mid-November, and since we aim to complete the lessons in your syllabus by the end of December before Christmas, well, I felt that I should take out some time and speak to you and give you a summary or a brief description about the next lesson, which is there in your English literature book. But trust me, children, I haven't slept for the last 3 days because I have been with my mother, who's admitted in the hospital. I sent a text message in the WhatsApp groups to inform you that I may not be available to take your online classes, but that doesn't mean that we should deviate from our focus. We have been continuing our lessons at a very steady pace in all the subjects, and we cannot simply let it go. On that note, before I start this lesson, children, I wish to clarify certain points with all of you. It may not be possible for me to explain the chapter in detail using the chart paper which you have seen before. Now, I use the chart paper because I don't have access to a green board because I'm working far away from Bangalore. So I want all of you to be a little motivated. More than motivation, that's called self-motivation, where the interest and the passion to study and learn comes from within. It comes from your own heart. You don't need anybody to push you to do that. It's your own willpower, passion, and interest which aids you in studying yourself. Now, children, what's the importance of studying literature by yourself? Well, literature cannot just be confined within the normal duration of a class because we are surrounded by literature. Yes, it's an important element of our life, and we cannot restrict literature as a subject to the conventional 40 or 45 minutes of a classroom session. And nowadays we talk about interdisciplinary approach towards education. What does that mean? Well, when you study literature, you just don't study that particular subject for the sake of it. There are other concepts, allied concepts from different subjects, which may be discussed in literature. You will see an illustration of this explanation in this lesson. You will see how in this particular lesson we are going to discuss about space science. I don't know if you have heard about this particular subject, but it's a very lucrative career option today when you grow up. I don't know how many of you wish to be astronauts or people who would like to work with C-25. What C-25? Why is this number so important? Because it's a rocket that was launched by Indian scientists in the year 2013 to Mars, which is a planet which is red in color, and has risen the eyebrows of a lot of scientists because there may be possibility of life support in that particular planet besides Earth. Now, as you know, that we have got our own solar system, Sun being the captain planet which sits in the center, and all the other planets revolve around the Sun. You must have heard about the concept of revolution and rotation. Revolution means when the Sun is sitting in the center and all the planets are going around the Sun. But there is something called axis, which is like a straight line. Axis, A-X-I-S. Every planet has got its own axis. Even Earth has got its own axis. And in 24 hours, the Earth rotates around the axis. Okay? In 24 hours, the Earth rotates around the axis. And that's the reason why we have days and nights. That's the only reason, because the Earth rotates around its own self. And the axis is that particular line around which the, or you can call it as a stem, okay? It's a long stem around which the Earth rotates. And the Earth takes 365 days to revolve around the Sun. And now do you understand why we have 365 days in a year? 365 days constitute an year. And that's the time. Well, of course, it's a day more. It's a day extra. In case if it is a leap year, which comes after every 4 years. Otherwise, it's 365 days, which is the duration that the Earth takes to complete one cycle of revolution around the captain, that's Sun, which is the biggest planet of the solar system. So I hope now it's clear for you. I'm sure you must have studied this in science before, where it's 24 hours for a day, because that's the time which the Earth takes to rotate around its own axis, which is, again, as I told, right, it's a stem, but it's imaginary, children. You can't see it, okay? It's an imaginary line, which is considered to be the central axis for the Earth to rotate around itself. And for that, it has got 24 hours. And, well, talking about revolution, it's a bigger circle. It is like circling around the Sun, and to complete one single revolution, 365 days, children. And that's the reason we have got 365 days in an year. Did you see the photograph very closely? Did you observe it? Well, you must have seen a rocket. Well, it's time for Diwali, but according to the Supreme Court, we are not going to burst any firecrackers this year, because this has been the year of devastation thanks to the pandemic. Okay, so you saw the rocket, and if you have enlarged the photo by stopping the YouTube video, by pausing the video, you must have seen that the number C25 is written on this particular rocket. Well, children, this is that rocket which was launched from ISRO, which is the Indian Space Research Organization, headquartered in Bangalore, chaired by Dr. K. Sivan. This rocket made history, because this was the first rocket to enter the orbit of Mars on 5th November 2013. And that was India's maiden. What is the meaning of maiden? M-A-I-D-E-N. Well, maiden means introductory, first. That was India's maiden space mission for Mars. This was the rocket. And did you see PSLV there? What's the full form of PSLV? You will come across this word in your book. PSLV means the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. This was indigenously manufactured by scientists in ISRO in India. What's the use of PSLV? Well, it's just used as a medium to launch the rocket in space. So it's a support. It's a support for the launch of the rocket. Did you see the structure which was holding the rocket before it was fired in space? That's PSLV. So now that you have seen the rocket, now that you have heard about the dates, and now that you have also known the concept of PSLV, let me tell you that in the year 1979, India tried to launch its first rocket to Mars. But unfortunately, due to lack of experience and expertise, that mission was aborted. It was unsuccessful. But that same mission was again reinstated in the year 2013 on 1st of November. Why this particular date was chosen? This date was chosen, children, because in the year 2013 on 1st of November, Mars and Earth came very close to each other in terms of astrological distance between the two planets. Now, that would actually be easy, right, to launch the rocket in that case, because both the planets are anyways very close to each other. It's a coincidence, and it happens once in 18 months. Okay, so it takes a long time. So after 18 months, the two planets came very close to each other, and that was the recipe for the scientists to think about the rocket launch. Now, why would you launch a rocket to the orbit of Mars? Before that, let me explain mom. Mom doesn't mean mother. We're not talking about mother here. It means Mars Orbiter Mission. Mom means Mars Orbiter Mission, MOM. This was a mission which was taken by the scientists in ISRO in Bangalore in the year 2013 for two basic reasons. Number one, they wanted to develop a technology which would help them send rockets to different planets as well in future. That was the first motive. And the second agenda was to find out the morphology, mineralogy, and the structure of landforms and geography of that particular planet called Mars, to see whether that planet can support human life form. Did you understand the two reasons? First was to develop a technology for future launches of artificial spacecrafts and rockets. And the second agenda was to study the landform and geography of Mars to ascertain whether that planet can support human life form. These are the two initiatives. The agendas were very simple. So when the two planets came close, let me tell you that C-25 rocket, the one which you saw in the photograph, that was launched from Sri Harikota. Sri Harikota is the rocket launch pad which we have in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Sri Harikota, don't forget the name. And when this rocket was launched, the rocket had a special camera. Now, how would you ascertain whether Mars has that convivial atmosphere for supporting human life form? Only when you see photographs, right? The rocket had a special camera which was supposed to click the photographs of Mars and send it to the I would say, what do you call it? Send it to the green room, of ISRO office in Bangalore, where the scientists would determine whether, whether the situation is actually convenient for supporting life form. So it was basically an analysis of pictures or representations which would be captured by this spacecraft, artificial satellite, once it reaches the orbit of Mars. Now there was an initial problem. You see, every planet, including Moon, okay, Moon is not a planet, but even then Moon has got its own orbit, okay. So what are orbits? Orbits are basically circular paths, right, which surround the planet. I'll show you a photograph and it will be clear for you. So as you can see, children, 1979 the mission failed. In 2013 it was reattempted. Can you see Earth in here? And can you see the orbits? I was talking about orbits. So this is how the orbits are there to surround each and every planet, okay. So these are circular tracks around every planet. Now the satellite can never enter a planet and sit on its surface. It's not possible, because there's something called the concept of repulsion. Whenever there's an external object which enters the orbit, there's always a chance of pushing it out, okay. So just like Earth, Mars has its own orbits, and the satellite can only travel in the circular path, okay, around the planet in orbit. So similarly, I didn't draw Mars in here, but you know what, if we could keep Mars here, the picture would have been same. So the main agenda was to thrust or throw or push this satellite from Earth to Mars. But would that satellite go and sit on the surface of Mars? No, it would only circle around the orbits and click the photographs and send it back to the office in Bangalore, right? So that's the concept. Now there was a problem, children. The scientists, because it was done for the first time, they experienced a problem. You know what? Say for example, I've got this sellotape, right? Now I want to throw this sellotape. I want to throw it, okay? It doesn't have any weight. It's very insignificant. I mean, the weight is very insignificant. How far would it anyways go if I throw it? I don't know. But what happens if I put a string like this and I keep on rotating this and then throwing it like a sling? Don't you think it will go far? So that was the challenge which they faced, and they brought about this solution. Initially, the rocket didn't have much power to thrust itself. I mean, the satellite, okay? It didn't have much power to thrust itself outside the orbit of Earth and enter the orbit of Mars. But the scientists used this technology for the first time, and that's the reason this mission was successful. So they did it kind of a sling, okay? It was like rotating the satellite and then pushing it to the orbit of Mars, and it actually worked. Well, there's a lot of technical information that goes into this process. We are not going to discuss that, but you can always read about it from Google or from any other social media sites or platforms. But this is for the basic information. So I hope the chapter is clear for you. This is how the space mission was taken about in 2013, after it was unsuccessful in 1979. And the mission was actually decided to be initiated on the 1st of November 2013. But due to unavoidable and inconvenient or inappropriate weather conditions, the mission was actually postponed to 5th of November 2013. It was postponed, or you can say it was delayed, due to unavoidable reasons for 5 days. And the spacecraft, I mean C-25, the rocket with the spacecraft within it, took off on 5th of November 2013 from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. And that was the maiden or the first space mission initiated by the scientists of ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, headquartered in Bangalore, currently chaired by Dr. K. Sivan, and the name of this mission was Mangalyaan. Recently we had Chandrayaan, remember? So that was the space mission for Moon, but this mission was for studying Mars, and it was called Mangalyaan, because in Hindi Mars is called Mangal Grah. Grah means planet. Mangal Grah. I'll leave you on that note, children. Now it's up to you to read the lesson properly. Use my video as a reference. Okay, you might find certain information which I have shared with you, which you may not find in your Pearson textbook, but it is for your knowledge, to arouse your interest in this particular field. It's a very lucrative career option, And on that note, children, I will expect cooperation and a little support from your end, because my mom is not well. Immediately in another 1 hour, I'll be pushing off for the hospital. I came for some time just to refresh myself, because I've been in the hospital for 4 days back to back. And as you can see, well, I'm not in a proper shape, but I still felt that we should continue our classes, at least the summary or a brief description about the lesson, so that it is easy for you to take it over and study all by yourself. Please try to do the question answers. Now that I have taught you 2 lessons, now you already know, you have got vivid insights about how to go about solving your question answers in literature. I hope it may not be very difficult for you now. In case if you have any queries, please keep it on hold for some time, unless we discuss this lesson in our next online class, whenever it is possible for me to take the classes. God bless you, children. Enjoy this particular lesson. Bye bye.